Hi, everybody. I'm down here in my usual place in the corner. I'm Pamela D Wilson, caregiving expert, advocate, and speaker. I am so happy to be here with you for this webinar where we're going to be talking about activities of daily living, and particularly the idea of our own responsibility for self-care and how we can manage the care of our elderly parents to delay the need for more care. Let's start with the usual housekeeping slide. As you already know, I use the term elderly or elderly parents. Substitute that term for whoever you are taking care of. Print the outline for this module, print the slide handouts, follow along, fill in the ... blanks for me. Let's talk about the objectives of activities of daily living and the effects of aging on physical activity. In this module, you should be able to relate nutritional needs to the aging body, identify issues that result in malnutrition and difficulties with activities of daily living, and implement solutions to stabilize or improve nutrition. The information about nutrition, it's beneficial for people of all ages, including you, the caregiver, and everybody who desires good health and better well-being. Let's talk about the objectives of learning about care needs to minimize health declines and frailty. We're also going to be able to demonstrate the significance of healthcare to healthcare diagnoses. We're going to be able to create in this module proactive steps to support health. I want to talk about the value of becoming interested in self-care. It really is underestimated. Self-care has a significant impact on health and well-being. Taking an interest in our health and the health of elderly parents, it's essential to keeping our elderly parents at home. But we have to become interested. So you might be wondering, well, yeah, I'm interested, but really what does taking an interest mean? It means it's a little bit of work. Taking an interest in self-care means that we are willing to be open-minded. A lot of people are not open-minded. You're not willing to consider other information. You think that you have everything that you need. It's that I'm good, I don't need any more information, I'm okay. You have to be willing to investigate. You also have to be able to be willing to learn. If you're willing to learn, that's why you're participating in this webinar. But being willing to learn about information that you may not know at a much higher degree than just learning about the obvious. Becoming interested applies to many areas of self-care that impact the quality of our daily lives and the lives of elderly parents. By investigating, learning, and using the information from all of these modules, you can influence others, you can share information with others, you can teach other people in your family, you can teach your parents a lot of good habits. Let's use an example of diabetes and how diabetes relates to other chronic disease. So let's say that your elderly parent has diabetes type 1, and that requires medications, blood sugar monitoring, nutritional changes, counting carbs, insulin injections, and some people will use an insulin pump and an insulin monitor. Diabetes, like a lot of chronic diseases, it crosses over to other systems of the body. If you remember the webinar where we kind of had a biology lesson and I showed the chart of all the systems in the body and we related all those to each other, that's what we're talking about here in the fact that diabetes relates to other chronic diseases. Other diseases that relate to diabetes include heart disease and managing numbers. We've talked about numbers. The numbers to manage are blood pressure, blood sugar, A1C, which is specific to diabetes, cholesterol, triglycerides, and weights. As you start investigating chronic diseases, you'll learn that a diagnosis of diabetes increases the possibility of other conditions like kidney disease, neuropathy, it's that loss of feeling, dementia, dental problems, cavities, periodontal disease, celiac disease, thyroid disease, vision concerns, and difficulty healing wounds. There are probably more, but that is a simple list. Let's talk about why we should have an interest in chronic disease management. Here's a list of suggestions specific to diabetes. So you want to learn about the symptoms of diabetes type 1 and really any disease. High blood pressure, kidney disease, vision problems. What does it look like when a parent feels good? What does it look like when a parent is having a bad day? How would you describe that to a doctor? Back to type 1 diabetes, how well is your parent informed about it? Do they know what they should be doing for daily care? The symptoms and the long-term health risks if they don't manage diabetes. What are they frustrated about? How well do you think that they're managing day to day? As you learn more about what your elderly parent should and should not be doing, you'll become more familiar about whether they can manage or whether they need help managing. You also want to start attending medical appointments with an elderly parent, research educational opportunities. As we talked about, prepare a list of questions for that doctor or the nurse. Find out if there are programs at the medical center or the doctor's office or a hospital that you can attend and take your elderly parent with you. Contact and visit the local diabetes association or heart association. Find out what information is available. The more educated you are, the better you will be able to manage care for your elderly parents and teach them why it's important. Also, look at options for advanced education like this webinar that you are attending. You can also subscribe to a diabetes magazine. You can search for diabetic clinical trials that your parent may be able to become involved in. So the idea is to think about being inquisitive as, what can I learn? What information can I find out? How can this help? And I encourage you at all places in caring for yourself or an elderly parent, don't hesitate, don't be naive about the risks of chronic disease. The risks are significant. Once you have a chronic disease, rarely can you go backward and have a do-over or have an undo or I don't have this diagnosis anymore. Once you have it, you likely have it. And sometimes by the time you're diagnosed, you may have had that disease for years and it already may have crept into other parts of your life, other chronic diseases. It's so serious and we don't have to be diagnosed with a chronic disease. It is optional. We don't inherit all of this from our parents. There's a small percentage that we do, but most of it is because of our own lifestyle decisions and our own lifestyle changes. And we'll talk about that throughout this module, but don't wait, be proactive to avoid health issues for yourself and to better manage health issues for your elderly parents who likely have already had these issues, unfortunately, for a number of years. Self-care is an individual responsibility. So while the role of a doctor's office is to help manage and treat all diagnoses, it really is up to us as caregivers and elderly parents to investigate and learn about well-being and chronic disease. Attending medical specialist appointments is something that can take your learning to a new level. In the case of diabetes, the medical specialist is an endocrinologist instead of a primary care physician. If you can find an endocrinologist in your area, ask your primary care physician to make that referral. Do make sure that they're in your insurance plan. The knowledge of medical specialists is amazing. It can help you manage chronic disease. It is so invaluable because of their experience and their special knowledge. Primary care physicians are great for general conditions, but they're not as well versed in the details of disease specialties that happen with the elderly. If you want better than average care, identify and attend medical appointments with your primary care doctor. Ask for referrals, attend appointments with specialists, ask questions, and learn how to better care for elderly parents. Let's talk about seeking health information. The healthcare system assumes that because all of this information is out there, consumers are out there constantly seeking information about diagnoses and preventive steps and treatments. And I disagree. The assumption by the healthcare system isn't always accurate because of this belief that all this information is out there, that readily information is there. I think this is interpreted in so many different ways. As with myself, as with you, as with many people, searching on the internet for health or medical information, it's popular because if we have internet access, we think, well, this is really easy. I'll just type in a question and the answer will pop up and I'll know exactly what to do. Here are some statistics. More than half of the people who use the internet to search for health information are completing the search for someone else. So for a spouse, your child, a friend, elderly parent, loved one. People who use the internet as a resource for health education have a better chance of getting treatment and care. However, warning, warning, warning. Much of the information that shows up in health-related searches is limited in content, or it lacks detailed information. So it's very basic information that is good to know, but most people, in order to manage a medical condition, need a little bit more help than what's on the internet. So content-limited information means that being proactive requires more than an internet search. You want to extend that search to contacting disease-specific organizations like the Alzheimer's Association and the American Heart Association. They tend to have a little more extensive and reliable information. Research articles are wonderful. They provide a lot of insight, although some of them may be a little too technical for the average consumer because you may not have the background to understand the information. But research articles have so much good information, and it's factual, it's research. It's not all of this I call fluff, or we can get into fake news on the internet. There's so much inaccurate information out there. Research is research. It's substantiated usually by facts, by research studies. It's done by reputable people at education institutions, at hospitals, at the CDC. If you can get your hands on some research information, it is a great starting point. But a good starting point for everybody is your primary care doctor, your medical specialist, other medical staff, caregiving experts, care managers like myself, people who have worked with patients for a number of years and have had broad experience to a lot of situations. Some health insurance companies will also provide disease-specific information. Because the accuracy of information can vary, you always want to compare the information with multiple sources to make sure that it's consistent and it's saying the same thing. Yes, it can be a little time-consuming, but the value of the information that you find and supporting good health, it's priceless, because if we don't have our health, we really don't have anything. So research confirms that people who search for information have what? What do you think? They have a better chance of receiving treatment, care, and the health care that you expect. If you are a caregiver, never ever hesitate to ask questions. There are no silly questions. There are no stupid questions. Be asking the providers, I don't understand this. What question should I be asking? If they talk in medical speak terms, say, I don't understand what you're saying. Can you explain that to me? You have to be in control of your health, your well-being, the health and well-being of elderly parents to get the care that you want. I am Pamela D Wilson, caregiving expert, advocate, and speaker. It's been my pleasure to share this time with you on this webinar, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next webinar.